Hello everyone, I'm Taaka Awori, founder and CEO of Busara Africa, a Pan-African leadership development firm. Welcome to the Leadership in Africa Redefined podcast. This podcast seeks to do two things. One, change the narrative of leadership in Africa, and two, provide concrete strategies and tips for leading in an African context. We do this by interviewing amazing African leaders so that the narrative of leadership in Africa is defined by the best of us, not the worst of us. We share their stories and provide practical suggestions for dealing with the challenges of leading on this continent. We discuss, interrogate, and examine concrete leadership practices that work. We also look at failures that these leaders faced and how they navigated their ways back on track. It's an exciting and empowering space for leaders to thrive and engage. Subscribe to the show to become the leader you have always wanted to be. And if you like the show, be sure you rate it and review it. It helps others to find it. Thanks so much. Welcome to another episode of Leadership in Africa Redefined, the podcast. And we have one of our nuts and bolts sessions, and I have the full squad with me today.
Yes.
Hi, Robert.
Hello, Taaka.
All well?
Yes,
we are.
Okay, good. So today we are talking about something that actually came out of a coaching session I recently had. And my coaching client was sharing with me how they had struggled with a new senior manager who had been appointed to their department. And essentially it was somebody who was really trying to show that they knew exactly what they were doing in their first 30 days. And this guy came in with a particular strategy that wasn't actually the best. He was really trying to prove himself. And so the idea that he came in with and the strategy that he came in with was really wreaking havoc within the full department. And as I sat with this particular client, I said, I can understand what this senior manager is grappling with. People come in and their first 30 days, they're really trying to prove themselves. And sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why today we're having the conversation around navigating the first 30 days in a leadership role. What are some of the do's, what are some of the don'ts, and what are some of the common challenges that leaders encounter when they assume new leadership roles? And the key thing is recognizing that depending on a person's experience and awareness, they may have a very false start, or they might have a very favorable start. And really, this episode is ensuring that your start in your leadership role is one that's favorable. It's not a difficult one. But maybe I'll start with you, Robert, because I know you have been in a situation where you took up a leadership role and it wasn't necessarily easy for you the first 30 days. So tell us about what happened to you.
So I got opportunity to serve in an international organization, and I was very young. And I was supposed to be the country director of the organization, which means I was someone coming in very young, the youngest of everybody in the organization. And I was also coming in as somebody who is coming from, a pure human rights background, having worked with any of these international human rights institutions before. But I think the reason why I was hired, I was told, was because of my management skills that during the interview they discovered. So it was all good. So the first thing was orientation. Overwhelming. I had to do 1 week of orientation alone with the board before we had staff time, before you had to travel to another country to go and do another orientation. It was like, what are we talking about? Then we have in a period where in your orientation, the politics of the organization is already chasing you.
Oh boy.
So people are calling you, I hear you are the new this, watch this person is doing that. And you're like, oh my God, I am like...
You haven't even started.
Exactly.
I've not even been to the office.
Wow.
So I've not even seen my desk. So already that was coming in. So and then there were so many expectations from so many people. And then also the organization was going through a difficult time with issues of leadership and all of that. And when I got to my desk, I had a desk where they had just fired 2 people, and the people were fighting with the organization. So I had to inherit a case, and the case was ongoing for over the period I was executive director or the country director. The case is ongoing.
Wow.
So I was also chasing that case. And then I had the staff who had their own way of doing things. And so when I went, though I tried to listen to everybody and all of that, I realized the things that, it needed to change so that we could move to where we are going. And you had resistance, like strong. Sometimes you have somebody where you go to the office in your first 30 days and already you had to have like a confrontation with people. So it was a really difficult start. In the first 30 days, it was like, no way. In fact, I considered resigning so many times. And I had also an international disaster. It was so horrible. When I started, there was a case that was national level case. And I think that I was out of the country for one of my trips, and my staff decided to do a press conference.
Without you?
Without me. And then, so, of course, they had told me there's going to be a press conference. Okay, sure, but they didn't give me the details, and I was new. So, you say you have to let things that have gone go on, and all of that. Then, I got a call from an MP.
Oh, wow.
Whilst I was in Netherlands, I got a call from an MP. I was like, you people, and you're talking about national, what do you know about national? I was like, oh no, what is happening? So I pretend, I said, okay, I'll talk to my team and get back to you. You go to the office, then your boss in the international office calls and says, you need to handle this, otherwise, firing. First 30 days.
Wow,
so
thank you, Robert. I mean, what a vivid example.
This
is just to say we appreciate what many of you have gone through, may be going through, or will potentially go through as you take up. It's difficult. These first 30 days can be intense. Hopefully not as intense as Robert's one, but we recognize it can be difficult. Huh? So I think, Robert, you've brought out indeed some of the challenges that leaders face in these first 30 days. And I think one of them is this lack of trust and skepticism from existing staff. I know I certainly went through it, where for me the big question they were saying, who are you, this small girl? Small girl coming, and particularly when age and gender then become a key issue in terms of whether people are accepting you or not accepting you. There's a thing of sometimes if you are being promoted from if you are being appointed to the role and you're coming from outside of the team, outside of the organization, outside of the country, then it's even more, there's a sense of you're an outsider. Who are you as an outsider coming to lead us? Huh? And so therefore, as you said, you sometimes encounter resistance from team members who feel that they need to be loyal to the previous person. And who are you to come in with this new style, with this new... And then you're constantly trying to navigate these pre-existing dynamics of those who are loyal to the previous one, those who didn't like the previous person are like, hooray, now we've got a new ally, now we will be on top now, and want to get... So I think that's one big challenge that folks face, is this lack of trust and skepticism from members.
So Taaka, that was a really good point. And just to add to that, sometimes people, they're skeptical or that lack of trust is tied to also them feeling that they should have gotten the role or one of their team members, colleagues, friends should have gotten the role. So they're not even wanting to give you the chance to succeed because it's like, who are you to come and take the role that belonged to me or to somebody else?
So and in fact, that was exactly the case. There was somebody from inside who was who everybody thought would have taken the role. So everybody was like, it should be that person's job. Who are you to take that person's jobs? And that other person was older and was a man.
The same thing, Taaka.
For you,
I also had somebody who was acting before me, and the person has been in the role 3 times. Has acted in the role
and never gotten it.
So then you can imagine there was already loyalty built, relationship built around it. Even building relationship with stakeholders was a problem. I just also want to add, when people also think that the board or whoever is the appointing body is using it as a tool against them.
Yes. Then they even question you more because they were like, that's why I didn't get the job.
Yes, because these people want you to come and do something with us, and we don't know.
So that lack of trust is one big thing I've seen. The second one I see is tied to the story I told before, the one about this coaching client. where that particular senior manager that she was struggling with was hustling to establish his credibility and authority. Again, often it's because you feel like, okay, I'm not trusted, but or sometimes you yourself are questioning your own competence. So then you start to, and again, what does insecurity lead to? Arrogance.
Exactly.
So you start coming as if you know it all.
Exactly.
You come and you're like, are you serious? What is this thing that you are doing here? This can't be real. And so what I see leaders struggling with is the way they seek to establish credibility in those first 30 days then comes off in a problematic manner. It comes off as being arrogant. And so it's learning, they struggle with learning how to be humble, but at the same time being open. To learn. So yes, you're coming with new ideas, new insights, but saying, but I'm willing to learn from others. So I see that also being a challenge.
I think, Taaka, I hear what you're saying around it is how you do it.
It's how you do it, isn't it?
How?
Yeah.
Because I see people who come in and say, I'm bringing the ideas from my old organization. It was better than this. Let's change this. Let's change that.
And that comparison. And
yes, and they don't know how to essentially gain respect and lean on the experience of other, because they're so keen on establishing their authority and their competence. So that's a challenge I've seen. What are some of the things you've seen, the challenges that leaders often encounter?
Seen and also experienced. So this idea of information overload, and decision paralysis. You come in, like I mentioned, I had all these weeks of orientation, and after that, I had the information on my desk to fire somebody and take the firing process of the person. So then you are new on your desk. The first thing that the board has written on your notice: fire this person, fire that person, go through that process. So then you're like, oh my God, I don't even know. I want to know more. What do I do? This person, I don't even know them, but and you get paralyzed because, and especially when you are hired into a role where there was chaos before you were hired. So a lot of things are put in place for you to make decisions on before you start your work, and all of that. And apart from the fact I had to fire, I had to hire. In the first month, I had to hire 3 people, fire 2 people, hire 3 people. It was like,
wow. So it's balancing this need to act quickly, yet have the right information to make informed decisions.
Yeah, so
that can be tough.
That can be difficult because the information you are getting so much, and you're expected to make a decision quickly so that you can move on. And especially when you have to balance what we talked about already about your age and all the challenge you are facing already in the organization. The perception.
What you said, Robert, is so true. That challenge of dealing with inherited problems. So you've stepped in and you've stepped into this very chaotic environment where there are problems. So you don't even get a fair chance to stop and think. Already you are now fighting fires and people are saying, okay, deal with the issues. So you are now having to come in and try and resolve issues that were there. You are now having to decide, okay, of these issues, which ones do I continue? Which ones do I modify? Which ones do I discontinue? But all in the midst of ongoing chaos. So you're making decisions without almost having time to breathe and process and think. And so it's a problem because what I have seen happen time and time again is when you step into this situation and you make whatever decision it is, even though you have inherited somebody else's problem, you will have to be accountable for whatever happens. And people have very short memories, including those who hired you. So a year down the road, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, when you're talking about it, suddenly it's your problem. They forget that
somebody did not deal with it and has passed on to you.
So dealing with inherited problems or decisions, for me, is one big issue. And maybe I'll just throw in one more as well. The other one would be, how do you align with the culture that's already there and the expectations that are already there? So in every organization, there are unwritten rules, there are these cultural nuances that you only really know when you are in there. Even if they give you an onboarding guide, it doesn't capture some of those things. So you need to come in and get a sense for that. If you come in and you don't have time or you don't take the time to kind of figure out what is the lay of the land, it will create problems for you. So because you are coming in with all of your experiences that shape your own values, your personal values. That so you will want to make certain changes to align. But many leaders are challenged with kind of just having to act without figuring out what is laying there. So that's a challenge. And even within that, just on the expectation side, it's also, communicating effectively about what can realistically be achieved within the first 30 days.
Yes.
Part of that is when you step into a role, and I think we need to learn how to do it. We need to learn to speak to the person who hired us and say, listen, we're coming in to do all of these things.
Yes.
But let us also be realistic about what can be done. So you manage their expectations. And by doing that, it gives you the confidence to then manage others. But we step in, and a lot of times we feel we need to act. And as we spoke about in our previous podcast, people are also saying, but you're not acting. What are you doing? And I remember my first day when I started a particular role as a chief marketing officer, I sat in a meeting. And it was a leadership meeting, and I didn't say anything. I was just listening. And I remember after, somebody came and said, but why are you not talking? Why are you not saying anything? And I'm like, I don't have to talk. I'm just listening. Let me try and absorb. But immediately they're judging you by how much are you talking, and you don't need to talk just because. So it creates challenges, but let me not take the whole.
But I can relate. But I think also tied to this is recognizing that you might have been coming from somewhere else with your own leadership style, your own way of doing it, as you alluded to before. There was ways you did things in your previous organization or company. I see another challenge they face is you come in here and you're like, what is the right leadership style for this context?
Exactly.
Maybe in my previous one, it was a lot more hierarchical. Now I've come to this particular organization and actually it's a lot more egalitarian, more equitable, less hierarchical. So how do I adjust? And then being able to, in those initial 30 days, people are watching you. And they're trying to say, this one, how does she operate?
Exactly.
How does he operate? So being able to set the tone for the communications and also having some clarity about what people can expect of you. So I find people trust leaders who they understand better, who they understand. So what are Gillian's expectations? What are Robert's expectations? Then they're like, oh, okay, this is how I do. This is what Gillian likes. But what Gillian is bringing in is not just completely disconnected to this. Gillian has been able to be agile and say, all right, I'm bringing the best of me and adapting it to this particular context. Robert, any others?
Like I mentioned, politics. Organizational politics that is brewing when you find yourself in it in the first 30 days is hectic. I think that's what influenced my idea of trying to mainstream the governance, because I was like, this is the reason why there was chaos, there was space in the particular organization that I was in, was because of course there was chaos, there was no particular way of organizing things, so everybody was just doing anything and everybody wanted to be either the board chair or the board treasurer, and that was their interest instead of the organization's main interest, So you needed, and then also already you are being pulled, this person wants to be board chair, they want to be your friend, they want to know what's happening so they can, and this person wants to be this, so, and then already within the organization also, apart from the board level, you're also talking about within the organization where this staff feels this one doesn't respect me, this one feels that this one gets more opportunities than I do, this one. So then you have to deal with the politics of everybody trying to get your attention. As the new ED or new CEO, everybody's trying to get your attention so they can get your ear as well. So that they'll be your friend. So that
get close to you.
Exactly. And see that I'm close to power. If you want anything, come to me. I'm the new buddy of the CEO or the ED. So you have to be aware of these things that people will try and will try to even know you, come to your house, bring you things, and all of that. And you need to be aware that somebody is trying to get close to power. So that they can use it, or they can be seen they can be seen as somebody who is more influential.
Politics.
It's a big thing.
So, folks, we've recognized. I think this was really just to appreciate the kinds of challenges that you face as leaders. And we've put a number on it in terms of 30 days, but we recognize it could be the first 30, 60, 90 days, but recognizing it's hard when you just step into these roles first. So given that, this is a nuts and bolts session, we focus on solutions after appreciating the challenge. We'll share with you some strategies, but we'll do it in two ways. We're going to start sharing with you strategies about what you should not be doing, the don'ts, and then we'll end with, well, so what are the do's? What should you be doing in your first 30, 90 days? Huh? So Gillian, let's start with you. We're starting with the don'ts. No, don't do. What is a first don't?
The first don't is do not change anything if you can for the first 30 days. It's not by force that you need to change something within the first 30 days. And so the most important thing is just pause. You know, we've been talking about it. You get in, depending on the situation, you are expected to act immediately. So you find that you come in, it may be restructuring. You need to restructure the team, or you need to change processes. Do not go and start changing things immediately. Don't do any restructuring unless it is critical. Don't change processes unless it is critical. Don't criticize previous leadership. Don't even go there in a rush.
I would say my second don't is don't assume you know everything about the organization. You can see that there are folks who come in about with all their previous knowledge. We know you know. We know you've done the job before. But in a haste to show that you know, you immediately start saying, I'm going to make a decision, just the same thing, based solely on your previous experience, not having had enough time to understand this particular context. It's the same way, even though you might have had fantastic experience from different industries across the world, don't dismiss local knowledge and experience about the company. Again, it's about making time to listen. And then I've seen leaders who do this thing. It's like, well, in my previous organization, in my previous role, when I was in Hong Kong, when I was in Taaka, when I was in Kisumu, these are the things we did. So don't be comparing everything to your previous organization. That would be another don't for me. And I think another don't for me is don't neglect existing company culture. There's this thing about, as you come into a place and you start to study, I think you mentioned this, you notice people tend to do things a particular way. Avoid dismissing that. So don't just think, pay attention to that, and then avoid imposing your personal style on the particular team. So as you are noticing what their culture is, don't just think, let me come with my way of doing this. This is how I do this. Your first 30 days, back to your thing. You're immediately changing things. So again, it's also, yes, you may see cultural changes that might need to be made based on all your wonderful experience, but avoid making those cultural changes. Culture is tough to change. And one really needs to understand it well, so avoid making those cultural changes without understanding their significance. Robert, any other don'ts on your end?
Yes, don't ignore the people who have been there for so long. There are people who have been there, who know the organization, and they understand. Sometimes they don't naturally come to you or draw to you. They stay in their corners, and you need to find them. Because once you have them, and there are also people, sometimes I call them kingmakers,
Yes, and queen makers.
Queen makers, yes, king and queen makers. And they sit in their corners and they know everything and they know a lot. And you don't have to ignore them. Their experience, their knowledge about the organization, what they've done before, what the history. I know one of the things we ignore. Don't ignore the history, because if you know the history, then you are making a decision, you are informed. So don't ignore those people when you get in there. Don't forget and lose sight of them. Yes.
Hi folks, hope you're enjoying the show. So have you heard about the Africa Leaders Circle? Our impactful e-learning platform that enables you to grow into the leader you would want to follow? Here is a message to tell you what you need to know.
Are you a CEO, executive director, or HR manager that is looking to build a pipeline of leaders that are ready to step up into management roles? Are you looking for a self-paced learning platform that provides your leaders with quality content and does not take them away from their work for too long? Are you looking for a program that enables your managers to move from knowledge acquisition to demonstrable improved practice? Then look no further. Sign them up for the African Leaders Circle today. The African Leaders Circle is an e-learning platform that gives your managers access to an exclusive community of leaders across the continent and a wide range of strategies and tools to stand out. We do this through online courses, discussion forums, a library of resources, and a personal learning advisor to support each of your managers to maximize their learning on the platform. To learn more, visit our website www.busara-africa.com.
Don't forget to visit our website busara-africa.com to learn more. And now back to the show. So Gillian, what's another don't?
I think for me, another don't is around micromanagement. Do not micromanage your team. Do not be, in parenting, they have this phrase called helicopter parenting. We're literally hovering. You know how a helicopter is able to stay in one position and just hover. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do not be a helicopter leader. Give the team room to act. Mm-hmm. And so, don't be checking in frequently, like every hour or two. Are you ready? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Because what it does is it makes the team feel like you don't trust them. Mm-hmm. And it makes them feel as if they don't know what they're doing. So it is really, really, really important to back away and not feel like you have to be in everything. If there's a decision that has to be made and somebody below you is capable of making it, do not bring yourself and now try and make the decision for them just to show that you can. It's not necessary, because again, it kills trust and brings us right back to the skepticism that we spoke about and people. It will kill you. It will kill the what you are trying to do before you even get started. So don't micromanage. That would be maybe another really big thing for me.
For me, I think it would also be about avoiding making huge promises that you can't fulfill. Again, with this need to show that we are relevant, we are able to make a difference, that they made the right decision to hire us. We may find ourselves saying, oh yes, I promised to do this. It's almost back to the point you made in terms of how you manage the expectations of those who hired you, but also managing the expectations of those you are leading in terms of what you can achieve. Your 30 days might be too soon to be able to determine what can you or can you not achieve. So I would say avoid those kinds of huge decisions. Maybe final, don't.
Don't be pulled into politics. Don't be pulled into the negative politics in the organization too quickly. Of course, as the leader of the organization, you have to deal with politics. It's something that you can't avoid. Especially when you are the head of the organization or you are the head of a team, the politics come to you because politics is about power. It's about getting some sort of power to do something. So it will come to you, but recognizing that it is there, one, two, learning about it, and don't get into it too much in a way that it makes you become like the center of it all. So don't get pulled into it too much. People will tell you things, people will say all sorts of things, but all you need to do is don't let them pull you into their space of politics.
And maybe let me just add to that, Robert, where sometimes getting into politics or getting caught in politics, people are almost forcing you to pick sides. Because that's what it is.
That's the idea.
Okay, which party are you favoring? Which side are you favoring? And so when you say don't get into politics, it's so key because it's too early. Within 30 days, it's too early to be making a decision about or picking a side or establishing strong feelings in any direction. So I think that's really important.
Easier said than done, because we're human. Immediately, you know how you can have snap reactions to people. Instinctively, you're like, this one I don't trust.
But learn how to control it. Like you may make a decision in your head, but keep it in your head. Don't act on it.
You can have it in your head and still be steady within your 30 days or 60 days. You still be having conversations, and people come to you secretly. So you don't need to show everybody that I'm on this side, because people are still trying to get you on their side. So it's always important.
And then when you seem to favor a particular side, then sometimes you may make comments across against the other group, and then what happens is people are watching, because they know that if you can come and say something bad against one side, you will do it to them as
Yes,
well.
yes.
So they have noted it. They may not say anything, but they have noted it. So it's the whole politics thing.
There's a
Stay away from
stay
it.
away.
Yeah.
Yes. So, okay. So, folks, we've given you a list of 7 don'ts. We said don't make any drastic changes immediately. That was number 1. Number 2, don't assume you know everything about the organization, avoiding local knowledge and dismissing it. Number 3, we said don't neglect existing organizational culture. Number 4, we said don't ignore the insights of long-time employees who've been there a while. 5, we said don't micromanage your team. Remember, Gillian, the helicopter parents? Number 6, we said don't avoid overpromising. What do you know? It was avoid overpromising, and the last one, big one, avoid getting pulled into organizational politics. So you have a sense of what not to do. I'm sure you're now wondering, given that, what should we be doing? So we will end the episode really by focusing on, now you know what you shouldn't, what are some of the key don'ts? Of the key do's, and some of them are almost implied from the don'ts. So the first one I will share is so implied from the first one, and it's about listen actively and gather information. And I've seen different leaders doing it in different ways. I know I have done this. I've seen other leaders doing it where they have one-on-one conversations with key staff, depending on the size of the organization. It can be about all staff. If it's a smaller team, again, it could be everybody. If it's too big, then it might be about smaller groups. So one-on-one conversations. Another one I know we have been asked to help a particular leader with listening tours or town halls, where the leader, you're just gathering, you're listening, you're listening what we call actively. You're listening for what's being said, what's not being said, what's being said in between the lines. But this is really about listening deeply. Or you might find that if you want, and you're sensing people might not be so open in these spaces, you can have some type of anonymous survey where you're gathering. But this is really, the first do is really about listening and gathering information.
Just to add to that, in listening and gathering, one of the key things that I've found is very effective is doing it sometimes outside of an official office setting where you're behind a desk. What really works is, and if your team is small enough, sometimes it's a bit easier. Take them out to lunch. Take them into an informal setting outside of the office. You tend to find that people open up way more in that setting. So make it informal, if possible. Move it outside of the walls of the office entirely, and you'll be surprised. And then just listen.
Because then you're getting to know people intimately, not just in terms of the job. So that's the first one. Listen actively and gather information. Robert, what's our second?
The second one is build relationships and quality relationships, and not just with your team and your staff and your organization, but stakeholders and partners and donors, all of that. I think the key thing, I remember doing this in where I really invested in getting to know people and getting to know them in a way that, one thing, and interestingly, the children of my staff still ask me, where's Uncle Robert?
Oh, nice.
Because I realized every team member had a family and they were so attached to their children. After I listened, I realized that these people like their children, they are looking for opportunity to bring their children to the office. I go, bring them to the office. Let's have a conversation. So the kids, when they are busy working in their office, I say, let them be in my office. I have a bigger space. So I can host them. So knowing and building relationship, quality relationship with them and showing genuine concern and interest, ask people, what do you want to do? How do you want to grow in the organization? Is there something else that you want to do beyond this? Show genuine interest. People will see that you are being genuine by asking them that and showing that you want to help them by doing. So you don't just ask, but they should see you do, And then also, like we said, the stakeholders, building relationships. So are there government officials that are related to your role? Are there people who are external? External in the sense that they may be just people who you have seen working with the organization one way or the other, but not really, sometimes they have the real information, So they can tell you probably from an outsider's perspective, what you need to know. You build relationship with them that helps you go on. So a key thing is building genuine relationship at every level that will help you in the work that you're doing.
Nice one. So that's the second. Gillian, what would be the third?
Before I give you the third, let me just give you a really quick story building on the second. So this was several years ago. There was actually, the person was in a different department. He was in the IT department, different from the marketing. And he had a baby. It was his first son. And I bought the baby just like one of those little outfits. I mean, it wasn't expensive. It wasn't anything. But I bought this gift, gave it to him. For me, it was just a gift. But little did I know, I only found out, I think it could have been 3 or 4 years later, that gift, because of it, he said, anytime I brought a request to the IT department, he prioritized it over every single request, because he said, I was the only one who ever gave him a gift when he had that. And so, the whole point is, sometimes you will do a small act and you don't realize what it means.
In terms of your social capital.
Yes,
exactly.
And it translated into work ways, in ways I never even knew. Wow. But the relationships are so key. And it's sometimes I find that we build relationships that we think we will need, and not necessarily pay attention to other people. But build relationships, just build the relationship, even if there's nothing in it for you. Because you never know when it will come back around to benefit you.
I like the fact that you emphasize, even though you're not, you don't know what's in it for you, because many times people will do it in a very transactional way.
Exactly.
What am I going to get? Let me be nice to this one because I need them. And we're just saying this is about establishing social capital by being genuinely interested in other human beings and building quality relationships. So
I'll say then they are doing politics when they start doing that.
Politics is about what can I get from who?
Exactly. How can I get there? So then that
So and then actually this same department. So I did do some transactional things too. Let me just because I knew I needed them, and sometimes I push them really hard to get things. So from time to time, I'll buy them pizza. I'll just buy pizza for the whole department. And it gingers them in a way to say, when she comes asking, they know that I care about them beyond that. So the relationship building is key. Anyway, so moving on to my actual point, I think another key point is about clarifying roles and responsibilities and expectations from very, very early on. It is key. So, and in doing that, you're looking at your job description and you're saying, okay, here are the things that I am tasked to do. Be clear about it. Be clear about the things that you are supposed to do and the things you are not supposed to do. Don't take on things that are not even within your realm of responsibilities, because there will be enough for you to do as a leader. So you don't need to be grabbing other people's roles. And when you give that clarity about what your role is, it also helps manage other people's expectations. So that's one. The second thing within that is really being very clear about the goals that you are pursuing, and clear to the point that they're measurable. So it comes back to your point of overpromising. Don't go and you're talking so much that you've overpromised and promised the whole world when you cannot deliver. So be very clear about exactly what people should expect to see accomplished within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And leaders, we can also help our team members where if you take on another leader, you give them a document about what is expected within the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, so that it's clear for them as well. And then maybe the last thing within that is, even when you are clear about what is expected, check in. Actually just check in, see how are you coming, not hovering. Checking in is different from hovering. So check in and just make sure that you're on the same page. The person understands now that they have to practically execute on what it is they're supposed to be doing. They're able to do it. They're clear about what it is. And if there are roadblocks, help them resolve it. It's not about just throwing them out there and they sink or swim. Let's not do that to the leaders that are under us. So that's
about clarifying roles, responsibilities, and expectations.
Yes.
What would be another one, would you say,
the other thing I would say is try and build momentum by getting quick wins. And you can do that by, when you come in, if you listen well, if you have listened, then you will know some of the things that need to get done, but are not too difficult to get done. So if you can pinpoint a few of those and then rally the team and get it done, it helps to, one, build credibility on your side. It helps to satisfy that need to see you do something.
Yes.
But it also helps to show that, hey, I can get things done, and you know, we're moving in the right direction. So look for what we call low-hanging fruit. I mean, things that are easy to get done, and then get them done. If there are issues that you need to deal with, again, especially if there are minor ones that you can deal with and resolve, do that as well. But the key is build momentum. Don't try and do something massive and then you can't. It's pick small things and then move, win.
Yes, I like that. I really like that. I think I would add on, maybe as the fifth one, you know, in those first 30 days, and I like what you said, if you're listening well, you will start to get a sense of, even as you're coming in, but particularly if you're listening well, you start to get a sense of what is your vision for your time that you're there.
Exactly.
I think it's important to frame this vision in terms of organizational goals. So it's not about your personal thing, but it's really you showing how you are coming in with a vision that will serve and benefit the organization. So this is about really studying the organizational strategy, doing a SWOT analysis, and then really making a clear case for this is my vision, this is my increasing vision. You may not in those 30 days articulate it, right? But if you choose to do it, it's articulating it in a way that people can see clear alignment between your vision and the organization's vision. So it's not simply just about you. Robert, what is the last one?
I think the last one is also very important around seeking feedback and getting be open to learning. I think that makes you even more attractive, you know, when you go into an organization. And I use this as a tool where I had my board of advisors where like I had and interesting, do you know who was? The receptionist was my board of advisors.
Yes. Receptionists can have a lot of.
And she was administrative officer, and I bring her to the office, and she was surprised that the country director wants me to tell him how he's doing, because I say, how am I doing? Is everything okay? She's like, the first time she was like, it's like, yes, I want to know, and so for me that key thing is important, that person. And interestingly for me, and because I've been trained by women all my life, it was also great to have an elderly woman who was in the space, who was also looking after me, was supporting me and giving me all the support and the boost to be there in that space. So you should have your board of advisors who support you. So your mentors, your coaches, all those people, to get feedback saying, then in the last 30 days, how am I doing? 15 days, what is happening? What is changing? Is there something that's happening that I must pay attention to? You must ask all of that. And when you are giving criticisms, take them constructively, you know. Take them and take them and for me, I always say, when you are listening to your colleagues, have a book and a pen. Be serious, don't be pretending.
Yes, I like that.
You know, but be serious on getting feedback in a way that makes you look like you're really interested. And people are happy to see somebody who is willing to learn and willing to take feedback critically, and also demonstrate willingness to base feedback on things that you've received. So when you're also giving feedback or talking about something, be sure that it is well rounded in the informed way of doing it. So yes, those are the things I would say.
Power of feedback. Okay, folks, so you've heard this. I mean, we talked about the don'ts, and now we finally ended by sharing with you the 6 do's. Number 1, listen actively and gather information. Number 2, build relationships, genuine, rich relationships. Number 3, clarify those roles and responsibilities, expectations. People should know what can they expect of you for the 30 days, 90 days, 100 days. Number 4, identify quick wins so that you can build momentum around your leadership. Number 5, if you have a vision, ensure that that's aligned with organizational goals. And the final and 6th one, get feedback. None of us is perfect. Get feedback from a range of different stakeholders and actors within the organization. So those are the 6 do's for your first 30 days. I'll give each of you a chance to do your takeaways.
Yes, I think if you don't mind, there are just one or
Yes,
two
go
points I
ahead.
would like
Yeah.
to add before we
Yes,
get to the
yes,
takeaways.
yes.
And it's just, we've spoken quite a bit about the do's, but there are also situations I've found or extra situations where, for example, you're promoted from within the team.
Yeah.
So you're a leader and you haven't come from outside. You are in the team with the other
Yeah.
people you are now coming to lead, and you have to really know how to navigate a situation like that, because suddenly people think, but we were friends,
Yeah.
and why are you now coming
Yes.
to pull rank on me? And they
Yeah.
don't recognize the
No.
difference in the role or the authority, and it's really tricky that as a leader, if you're in that situation, you have to now go back and find ways to establish boundaries and reset expectations, and almost say to people, okay, we're all in this together. Yes, we were all going out to lunch. We're all even bashing
Yes.
the previous leader. Yes, but now it's changing a bit, and I still love you guys. I still respect you. We'll still go out and have lunch and everything, but in the office, things will change a bit, and so level set that
Yes.
with the team to avoid unnecessary conflict and all of that, because resentment builds so quickly.
Yes.
It will build so quickly. People will feel that, but they could have done it better than
Yeah.
you. Why did you get the role? That kind of thing. So for me, it's just to say, after we've said everything, if you happen to be a leader who's come from within the same team, then be transparent.
Yeah.
Be clear about what the expectations will be, and then just make sure you address any resentment or things up front, so you get it out of the way.
Oh, thank you for reminding
Yeah.
us about, because this is a real
Yeah.
tricky situation. And folks, actually, we've done a video on this. Check out our YouTube channel, Busara Africa Leadership Tips, where, because as Gillian said, this can be such a tricky situation, we've provided you with some tips on what to do if you've been promoted above your peers to become now a leader of a team that you belonged to. So in addition to the suggestions that that Gillian just shared with us, there's another also unique situation
Yeah.
and I think, Robert, you have gone through this.
Yes, so I think in the additional,
Younger leaders,
yes, being young and being promoted or being made the head of a team or being made the head of an organization is very tricky. And I think Taaka alluded to it at the beginning, where your age becomes a situation, a conversation, especially in our context here in Africa, where age is a very big thing.
Yes.
It's important that you recognize it. And how I dealt with it, and what's interesting was, one, recognizing that one of my age and having a frank conversation with the team, to know that, yes, this is the situation, we cannot ignore it, and it's important that we have a positive, balanced conversation around, I'm happy to learn, and I'm happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
Let's make it easy for all of us, so that we don't have it a big deal. Also seek mentorship and counsel, because the idea is that once you are in the role, people will expect certain things of you. There's certain ways that somebody has had experience with and can support you in that light. Also build credibility, and that is one thing that I loved around feedback that I got from my team around. They said, there are certain things that we know that when we come to, we'll get the answer. Certain things we know. So the idea that they knew that for our boss or our colleague or the person I'm working with, when we go to them, there are certain things that they will be the person to speak to, which was very key. And also emphasize your uniqueness and fresh ideas that you bring, so that when you emphasize it, you don't force it on people, but just let people know that this is what I'm so bringing. What do you think? How can we gel it together? Because remember, your age is always being looked at. So you have to be careful how you communicate some of your fresh ideas to people.
Nice. So folks, we just added in those two nuances for those first 30 days. If you're in those two sometimes tricky situations, you've been promoted above your team members, or you are much younger than the team that you're leading. All right, so it's a wrap. Your final thoughts, takeaways, because we recognize your first 30 days are so critical in setting the tone for your leadership. So some key things you want folks to take away?
I would say, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Be mindful of how you feel and your emotions, and know that you are worthy. You
I
know,
like that.
it's going to be sometimes going to be challenging, sometimes going to be fun, but the most important thing, don't lose your balance. You know,
Yes, I
always
like that.
keep your focus, keep your balance. Remember why you were brought in, and feel comfortable to make mistakes, but not too hard ones. Not too hard ones, because sometimes you may say something. I know some leaders that are new. Maybe there's a way that organization says something because they are new. They may make a mistake, and then people will draw their attention. Oh no, here we don't do it like that. And then you take it as, look, I'm
beat
failing.
yourself
I'm failing.
up.
Yes, no.
Yeah,
Give yourself grace
I like that.
and
I like
and
that.
grow through the process. I think that would help you. Take the process. Let it go through you, and you will have fun with it. Yes,
I
thank
like
you.
that.
Yeah.
Gillian?
Maybe I will, and I'll end with 3 words: transparency. Be like, embrace transparency. Be humble, humility.
Yeah.
Like humility will get you, I think, the furthest in 30 days more than anything else. Because humility allows you to listen. It allows you to give feedback, receive feedback. So transparency, humility, and then relationships. I think for me, those are the 3 big things where it's don't blow through relationships. Respect those around you. Build new relationships, but respect the relationships that have already been created and leverage them as much as possible.
Yay! Well, thank you. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us. I hope if you are in your first 30 days of leadership, or your first 60, or your first 100, you found this useful, and these do's and don'ts useful. And again, as we always end, my 3 requests. Please subscribe if you found this useful. If you know a leader like you who is in a new role, just starting out, struggling a bit, please share it with them. And finally, would love to have your feedback. Please rate, review the show, and let us know what will you do differently based on what you've heard. But thanks for joining us. Ciao.
Bye.
Hello, wonderful leader. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the podcast. I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. If you want more of the lessons, experiences, and nuggets for effective leadership, join our amazing platform for leaders, the African Leaders Circle. Learn more at www.busara-africa.com. And if you liked the show, don't forget to subscribe and share with other amazing leaders. See you soon. Ciao.